The doors are open and we're preparing to live stream the webinar. And so participants are coming in, and it looks like this will be up on YouTube very shortly.
Okay. Hey, Eric. Hi from Calgary.
Oh, hi, Eric. Nice to see you.
Oh, hey, Deanna. How you doing? Right from my backyard. Yeah.
We've got Ottawa there.
Yes.
And just a quick note as people are coming in, if you'd like to chat and have everybody see it, you can just click above your message box where it says hosts and panelists. You can click it to say everyone, and then everybody will be able to see what you're saying.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So we've got someone from Victoria. Oh, and we've got Delaware.
Wow. Fantastic. Cool. It should be a lot of fun tonight. We'll be talking to people from all over the place, and different areas are all around the globe, or at least in the North American part of it, probably.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Hopefully everybody's got the 2 full moon nights in a row. Last night's and tonight's. I got out and I got a picture of the moon. I didn't take a typical crater type picture. I took one through the trees, and just to make a little special, because it was the thing that I like to do every year.
Yeah. How did it compare to other years?
Well, I mean, it's always the same moon, but it was nice because I had just done that little thing we do on Monday nights, and I knew I missed the rise, so it was already above the horizon. No matter where I went, I lost that part of it. So I thought, I'm going to do something special. I'm going to make it look kind of jewelly. So I took it through a tree, and it had all this really nice gold shine from the moon itself, lit the tree up around it. So it looked very mystic, I guess would be the word for it. So, anyway, cool. So I did it. Another year done. Tradition.
Awesome.
Still lives. Yeah.
We just had a question here from Jonathan. Will the webinar be recorded for later viewing? If I've done this correctly, then yes, it should be on YouTube. We're streaming it right now to YouTube, if I've done it all correctly. Yeah, no problem. And so yeah, I guess we can just get started, as people will just keep coming in as they do. Good evening. I'm Allendria Brunjes. I'm the editor-in-chief of SkyNews, and with me tonight is Paul Owen, astrophotographer and our instructor. I do not know very much about astrophotography at all. I know that this is an astrophoto behind me, and Paul is our expert who will be sharing his knowledge and how to basically the basics. This is the lesson 1 of an 8-part series. What we're looking at doing through the course of this series is we're going to be looking at the data that has been collected by the Rask robotic telescope for the astro imaging editing contest that we've been putting together at SkyNews. And so the first object we'll be looking at is M8, the Lagoon Nebula. It's the robotic telescope took some amazing data, which we are sharing at skynews.ca for free. You can download it. There are a couple different packages, including there's a level 1, level 2, level 3. There's also the raw data, so you can decide how you want to play around with it. The level 1 has been it's got the most work done to it already. Level 2 has had a little bit less, so you can do a little bit more if you just want to play around with things a little bit more. And level 3 is pretty much, I think it's pretty much the raw data, Paul?
Yeah.
So
it's camera.
Yeah, exactly. So that one will probably take longer as you calibrate everything, but it will give you an opportunity to do exactly what you want. And so, yeah, without further ado, I guess I've already kind of introduced Paul, and he has been awesome. Like the fact that he works with SkyNews, we've published his photos before. He he says he was introduced to astrophotography in 2013 and bought his first serious telescope, not knowing then what he would need, just knowing what he wanted to do. And his images now appear in newspapers, calendars, magazines, including SkyNews, and websites. And he teaches online tutorials to others wanting to start their journey into astrophotography. So thank you, Paul, for being here tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I guess maybe we should probably get underway. Before we do, thank you for that absolutely wonderful introduction. And just to let people know where I am, I didn't really get into astrophotography into a heavy as much as I have over the last couple of years. So I'm not, I guess what I want to say is the software we're going to use tonight to do the processing is PixInsight. I am not a PixInsight ambassador. We'll leave that to Ron, Peter, and Warren, of course. Those guys are the ambassadors, and they know the ins and outs of that software. But what I'm going to do tonight is just basically show you what I know and what I've learned online, which is, I'm sure, where a lot of you people are going to be learning. Your beginning stages of astrophotography. And that's where I went, and we're going to have some links put on in the columns below to certain people that that I think that would be a good place to start, a good source to go to for some information when you're going to need it. So I'm going to do a processing, putting all this information together. That basically I'm assuming that most of you people have already downloaded. And I'm just going to show you the procedure that I do to put it together. But before we get into that even, the data sets that we have are absolutely amazing. They're coming from some absolutely dry, dark skies down in Auberry, California. And the robotic telescope that Allendria had mentioned, I just want to kind of show that. So I'm going to share my screen if I can, and share and see if I can remember how to do this correctly. And if I hit that, then you should see. Am I sharing now? Or your mic's off?
You're sharing. You're definitely
okay,
sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so so this basically is our presentation today. I'm not going to do all of that's on here. So we've already we're going to be doing the introductory to entry-level astrophotography. The equipment that's used to capture the data. That's what I want to talk about right now. So the telescope that was used for this is a Ritchie-Chrétien 16-inch telescope. I mean, 16-inch is something that I don't think most of us have in our backyard. And they kind of knew going into this that they wanted something that not only they could use for astrophotography, but also for some studying as well. So this telescope does a lot of different things, but it does make an absolutely wonderful astrograph. So this is the same kind of optics that they would have in the Hubble telescope, and it's a reflector type of design. So how you can see that that's evident if you ever look at the images, or if you looked at the data that we have that we're going to be working on, you're going to notice that there are some star spikes on some of the stars, and that is caused by the secondary mirrors holding device that's in the front of this telescope. So any kind of reflector, whether it's a Newtonian or a Ritchie-Chrétien type of design that uses what they call a spider, which is basically two connecting lines that form an X, which hold the mirror in the center. That's how you get those diffraction spikes to make those nice stars. So if you look at the Hubble data, you'll see that kind of spike. So that's the kind of telescope that this is. This is like 3,500 millimeter focal length. This is a powerful telescope. The camera that they're using with this is an S-Big, and this one is an STX 16803. If you ever want to look it up online, you can see what it's all about. It's a 16 megapixel sensor, and it's a square sensor. And the pixels in this are like 9 microns. They're huge pixels. This is an excellent camera. So this is made by Santa Barbara, I can't remember instrument. I can't remember the last word, but anyway, that's what S-Big means. Now this is a mono camera, and because it's mono, we have to use filters. And the filter wheel that they're using is also the S-Big, and this one is actually designed for that camera, and this is the STX FW51, and it uses 50 millimeter sized filters in it, and they're actually square. And so when you look at the filters that go in it, they are these ones. And that particular filter wheel holds 7 filters. You're only seeing 5 here. And what we're going to be talking about are the 5 things that we're using tonight, which is the hydrogen alpha, the red, the green, the blue, which is what RGB means, and of course the luminance, which is primarily a clear piece of glass with some coatings on it. If you were to fill up the 7, then you would also have oxygen 3 and sulfur 2. But these are the ones we're dealing with tonight. So, and how a filter wheel works, it's very simple. It just attaches to the back of the camera. This is not the same one because this is using round filter holders, but you just drop your filters in the holes and you label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. However you're going to do your imaging run, that's how you put your filters in. And each time you spin the wheel, it just basically engages a different filter. And so when you're using monochrome camera, a filter wheel is pretty much a thing that you have to go along with it. So I think that's all I want to talk about with that. So I'm just going to stop sharing here for a moment, go back to this. And what else was going to get into? I think it was just the camera. If you're using a DSLR, or if you're using a one-shot color camera, even though that we're going to be using mono camera data sets, the procedures and the methods that we're going to use to put all this together, you will, as you get into your astrophotography journey, be using most of those with your one-shot color camera. For example, blending hydrogen alpha with RGB. Well, you can get hydrogen alpha filters for your one-shot color camera. So a lot of people do that. They'll go out and shoot the RGB because they want natural colored stars, so they get the red, the green, the blue. And then they'll take the hydrogen alpha and get all that glorious pink and red that we see behind us that perhaps the other camera won't pick up. So, or the other filter won't pick up. So blending those is one of the things we're going to do with this data. But with a one-shot color camera, you can do that too. And the same as luminance. Now, you may not take an actual luminance picture because your camera is colored, but you can actually do synthetic luminances, which is just simply making a luminance out of one of your pictures. So all of those things we will be doing. So don't be worried that, okay, is there stuff that I'm not going to use from this? Because I really don't think there is. I think we're going to use everything that we talk about. So having said that, if there's no questions, we'll move into putting this together. Oh,
sorry, no questions yet, but I just wanted to let people know that if you'd like to ask questions, it's probably best to use the Q&A box. It's just at the bottom of your screen, probably around this area. And yeah, it's when we see the questions there, I'll pass them on to Paul. And if you're on YouTube, I'm also checking the chat box there. So you can always throw a question into that box as well. So yeah, that's perfect. All I have to say about that.
Everybody likes a good dump. Okay, and having talked about questions, if there are questions that are asked that I don't know the answer to right away, we will be taking that information and I'll look at it. And if I can't get the answer to you right away, I will get that information to you because there'll be ways I think maybe Allendria can talk about later how we can get that information back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, before we get too started, I'm going to create a poll here maybe, or you can get started, Paul, and then I'll throw the poll up when it's ready, just to ask people how much astro imaging editing experience they have. And if you want to, you can throw some stuff into the chat there too, and I'll read, Paul and I can read it there, just so that we have an idea what you're looking for tonight too.
Perfect. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to see if I can't share my screen again. I might have to do a little manipulating, moving things around, because I want to bring up what I'm going to be using. So if I share my screen now, it should be this one. And please tell me if it works.
Yep, Jackson here says from Ottawa that he has no experience. None. So
Oh, okay,
great.
perfect.
So this is
Okay,
awesome. This is welcome to the wonderful world of editing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, can you see my screen there now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so the software of choice that I'm using tonight is PixInsight. I came from Photoshop, which maybe many of you are still using. And I started out with Photoshop because that's what was on my computer. And so I thought, if I'm going to put an image together, I didn't know all the people that I had access to. I just knew I had a camera and a telescope. I took a picture. Let's just do something with it. And it's funny, my very first picture is a big green blob. And I was so proud of that blob. I posted that. That's still on my page today, just to remind me where I started with this. And I hope I never lose the enthusiasm, and I hope your enthusiasm level is there and it stays there along your journey too. So anyway, so I'm using Pixensight tonight. Pixensight is designed specifically for astro processing, or astronomy processing pictures, and Photoshop was not. So there's a lot of things in Photoshop that people are using and they've mastered and they do an absolutely wonderful job with. But I found when I made the transition over to PixInsight, it just, as I got used to using the tools in it, it just started making more sense, because there's a lot of similar functions on a lot of the tools. So as you start getting used to one or two or three tools, then you're going to start seeing some of the same icons in each one, and then it'll become like a very nice smooth transition. It's like, oh, okay, I know what that one's for. I've used that before. So it gets easy that way. Some of the tools that we will be using in PixInsight that are very important to know, and I don't know if I can see them because I got that. I wonder if there's a way to get rid of that bar on the top of my screen. Let me just see if I can, because it's actually covering part of my tools.
Yeah. In the meantime, I can get the poll started here.
Video panel, hide names of annotators.
I've got Eric here, says he has 0 experience, downloaded the data and couldn't figure out how to open it.
Okay.
Totally understandable. I did the same thing.
Okay.
And a few others here with somebody who's played around in GIMP, and in someone who has Photoshop experience. Paul here says beginner with benefits. Use the smartphone to capture video, and tweaked in processed in pip and AST, and then tweaked in GIMP. And so yeah, we've got a bit of beginner experience and a little bit of played around with it, but it looks like some people are just starting to get into Pixel.
Starting to get used to it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. I'm just trying to see if I can make this thing on the top disappear. Hide, is that the video panel?
I don't see a video panel.
Hide floating meeting controls.
Oh, is that just on your screen? Because what I see of your screen is just
I can't see my tool, like the tools that I need to adjust underneath.
Oh, I see.
I can't see
the video screen. The video is in the way.
Okay, there, I'll just drop it down a bit. There we go. As long as I can get at those tools, that's all that matters.
Sure.
Okay. All right, we'll continue from here. We'll figure this one out on the next one. Okay, so all right, so for those who are just getting into astrophotography and getting into the PixInsight world, and I think it might be in good order to talk a little bit about the PixInsight format, so that we can kind of get around things. So if you want to open your files, when you open up PixInsight, if you've already downloaded your files, we're assuming that you know where they are on your computer. Excuse me. So then you would just simply go to File and just press the Open button. And I'll do this to show you. Hopefully mine will come up. There we are. And then your files will come up. So the ones that we're using tonight are the master lights for our hydrogen alpha, luminance, and red, green, blue. So all you would have to do is simply click on that one, the one on the top, and then hit your shift key on the bottom one, and it will highlight each and every one of those images, which is 5 of them. Then you simply open them up, excuse me, and they will automatically populate on your workspace. So that's how you would start to put your video files onto your workspace. I've already got mine there, so I'm just going to close these ones off. I just want to show you that. There, there, and there. Okay. The other important tools that you're going to want to know a little bit about, and I'm just going to open up this hydrogen alpha file. And I want to show you a little bit around what goes on here. This is what they call the identifier. So in PixInsight, anytime that you're working on a specific image, in many ways, when you shrink it down, like you see these ones, they are actually identifiers. And that's what the identifier is on the side. If anytime you want to change that to a name for any reason, and you will be, and this is why I recommend that you get to know this particular tool, is because you will be changing names on your images many times throughout the process. So, and for one reason that I changed all of my names already, you notice that my names are a lot shorter than the files that you downloaded. The ones that you downloaded have this great big long name to them, right? So the reason I left one open with a great big long, or two of them open with big long names, or one rather, sorry, is I want to show you how to do that. So all you do is just open your file. You take your cursor, set it over top of the identifier, and simply right click on it. And then you go right to this where it says identifier, and you simply click on it. And you don't even have to wipe out that new identifier. You just simply start typing. So I'm going to call this Master Loom, but I'm going to make one mistake because I want you to see, because I know this will happen to you. Master Loom. So that looks like a nice name, right? So let's say, okay, Master Loom. Whoops. Invalid identifier. Oh no, what have I done? Okay, so don't panic. With PixInsight, they do not leave any spaces between words. That's why you'll always see underscores between each and every one of the words. So when you go ahead and rename something, make sure that if you're going to use spaces, always connect it with an underscore. So if I go underscore loom, let me just.
That explains a lot. Why the data packages all have the underscores.
There you go. And now we just renamed this one Master Loom. I hit OK, and now look at my identifier. Now it's the Master Loom. The nice thing about that, and the reason I like to shorten them up, is because they're so long and they take a lot of space on your workspace. So, so I always like to shorten them up. And plus, I like to call them Master Red. I don't want to read a whole long technical thing when I just want to know where's my red file. There it is. So, so it's good to get comfortable with your identifiers. The other thing about this, and maybe I'll show it a little later, but if you ever want to know where you are in the run of your image, you can always use that same identifier. You just click on it, right click it, and you can go down and it will load your History Explorer. And this is kind of like looking at your history in Photoshop, because lots of times you're going to say, oh my gosh, did I do this? Did I do that? I'm not sure if I put this in there. If you go just right click on your identifier and load your History Explorer, it'll actually take you right through. Look, it already tells us we put our identifier in, right? So this will give you a history of every step that you do. So if you ever want to go back to see, did I do that or did I not do that? You have a history right built into that identifier. So that is it's a very, very nice tool. And as you start delving a little deeper into PixInsight, the things that they do that maybe don't make sense in the beginning, as you start using them and start getting your workflow going, they make perfect sense. And everything is so strategically placed. It's really, really a great, great tool. It really is. Okay, that was one of the tools I want you to get used to or get up to understand, know where it is. The other one is, and I'm going to show you this as we go, but you'll notice that on this side, I have all of these tools that are there, and you're thinking, oh my good God, how am I going to go through all that? I'll be 3 weeks in a Sunday trying to process an image. Really, you won't, and you're not going to be using all these tools on every process, but you will use some, and there are some that are going to be very stock to you, and this is how you're going to develop your workflow. But to find these tools and where they're all hidden, you go over to the word where it says process, you click on process, all processes, and in alphabetical order, there are all of your tools that are in there. And there are a lot of tools. In the beginning, you're only going to need probably, 7 to 10 tools. So we'll, when we start to go through this, we're going to take and save a tool, put it in the side, and that's going to be our tool set. So that when you open up your new session on whatever your new project might be, it'll open up to a blank screen, but you can have all of your tools in a workflow for you so that, okay, this is my first step, dynamic crop. This is my second step, background extraction. This is my third step, color calibration. So if you do it in this manner, I think you'll find it, instead of having to write it down on notebooks like a lot of us did in the past, if you do it this way, you won't need the notebooks, only for maybe how did I do that adjustment, but at least it'll make a lot of sense so that when you go ahead to use your PixInsight workflow, you've got it there and it's like, okay, this is my first step. Let's get started. So I think that'll be helpful, excuse me, for you to do. And then we'll show you how to label them and we'll do all that stuff as we go along. Is there anything else I want to talk about? No, I think that's good. And I think we'll just touch on tools as we get into it, because we have a lot of things to unpack. So if are there any questions at this point, or do I just keep rolling?
There are a couple of questions, and it might be good to answer, the basics here. Somebody mentioned they wanted to know, is there a cost for PixInsight?
Yes, PixInsight does have a cost. I can't remember what it is now, Canadian, but it's a one-time cost that you pay for it. It's relatively expensive, but once you have it, you pay for it once, end of story. They continually update PixInsight. There are people that actually write scripts for PixInsight, which are included. So there's a number of people that write scripts on a continuous basis. They work with PixInsight. And what a script is, in case you don't know what that is, that would be like 3 or 4 or 5 processes that may be all put into one tool, and it's a one push button, and it'll do a bunch of those processes for you all at once. So they actually script all these things together, so it makes it easier for you. So there's all kinds of scripts in there. As far as help, PixInsight is the most widely used astro processing software on the market. So all you have to do is go to YouTube, type in PixInsight and whatever tool you want to learn, and you will get a myriad of different people that are online showing you how to do it. So there's support there, and there's also support through PixInsight themselves. And they have a group of guys called the Masters of PixInsight, who are ambassadors for PixInsight. And they are always doing master classes where a whole bunch of people can get together for a very small amount of money, and they'll spend 2 hours with you on topics. They're fantastic. Ron, Warren, and Peter, amazing people. And if you're going to get into PixInsight, anytime you see a masterclass and you got a couple extra $30, $40 and you want to learn something new, I can't recommend those guys enough. And that's where I've actually been on a number of their courses, and they're fantastic guys, and they're great teachers. So you won't get lost with them. So
okay, and we have just one more question. How does PixInsight compare to Affinity?
I'm not familiar with that
Affinity
software. I've never used it, so I can't honestly say. I can say that PixInsight versus Photoshop. Once I learned all the things that I didn't think I could ever learn that PixInsight would have for Photoshop, and I found out where they were. PixInsight is, again, it's just not that there's anything, like Photoshop is wonderful and I still use it for some stuff, but it's just that PixInsight is designed specifically for this. Yeah. So that's what I would say. But again, the other software, again, I apologize. I don't know that much about it.
Yeah. And one other question, does PixInsight run on Apple products?
I'm sorry?
Does it run on Apple products? So on my Mac, is it going to run?
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it does, because I think that, because I could get PixInsight. It's just a matter of making sure that you have the RAM to do it, and the
and you have to down. That's a good question, but I think that they are on Mac.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, we'll find out just to be sure.
Yeah, I'll just double check and then I'll type it into the chat here.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll continue then. Okay. So we've got some steps that we're going to take tonight. The first step that I want to do is we're going to take our red and our blue and our green data. And what we need to do is we want to create one RGB image. So if you open up any one of them, and I'm sure you have, and you look at it, you think, well, hold it now. That's the red channel. That's supposed to be red. And the blue channel is supposed to be blue. And the green. Well, when you're using monochrome cameras, you're shooting in grayscale, and you put the filter in front of it, and it gives you the characteristics of what that filter will do, but it's still going to be grayscale. And until you assign it a color channel, it's going to be gray. So the first thing we want to do is assign all these the colors they need to be, which is red, green, and blue. So how do we do that? Okay, we're going to use what we call our channel combination. Now I have it set over here because I use it a lot, but if you haven't set yours up yet, how you find it is you go to Process, All Processes, and again, we're in alphabetical order, and we wanted to use our channel combination. And this is a really simple tool to use. The only thing we want to do is make sure that we know we want to have a red, green, blue image, right? So we want to check RGB. Then we have these three spaces that our red, green, and blue file need to go to. There's two ways you can get it in there. You can actually click open your file, and you can go down to your Dropbox. Anything that is on your screen will be in this Dropbox. So all you have to do is pick up which one you want. Let's say I wanted my my master blue. Okay, but whoops, I put it in my red file. I made a mistake. Well, all I have to do is just open that file again, because it always starts on the top. And I'm going to actually look for my red, my master red. Hit my OK button. Now it's in there. Another way you can do it is, if you want to put your green channel in, all you have to do is open up your channel. Whoops, went too far there. Drag and drop your identifier into the green area. So it's a simple drag and drop. Very simple. That's the way I normally do it, because I find it a little faster, because everybody's used to using a mouse. So master blue, and we'll just drag and drop into our blue. That's it. So now that we've got those three files in there, then all we have to do is go over to this little round blue button, press it, and it's going to take and it's going to combine all of those images together for us. So now we actually have an RGB file. So we no longer need the combination tool, so I'm just going to close that. And so now we say, well, hold it now, that's still black. I can't see anything. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to actually take a peek inside here. And Pixinsight, these are some other tools you're going to want to get familiar with. Right on the top, they have what they call their stretch tools. So if I just hover over it, it says auto stretch. So this will give me an auto stretch. If I press that, it'll open up the image. If it's not bright enough, you can do an auto stretch with a boost. Press this one, and it makes it brighter. So the first thing you're thinking to yourself is, oh my gosh, it's red. It's supposed to be red, green, blue. Well, unfortunately, when they put three things together like that, there's always a bias to one color or another. If you're in the one-shot color world, you're a lot of the times it's going to go, if your camera has what they call the Bayer matrix on it is red, green, blue, it'll be usually RGGB. And because there's two green and one red, one blue, lots of times your picture will look green before you start to calibrate it. But don't panic. This is nothing to worry about. So we're okay with that. So we got our image open. So now what I want to do with this image is I want to actually crop it. And so dynamic crop is the first thing I do. And the reason I'm going to crop it is I want to show you something. I'm going to make this image very big. If you want to know how to make your image large or small, you just simply use the wheel on your mouse, and it'll make it. You roll it back towards you, it makes it larger, and you push it forward, it makes it smaller. So, but I want to get in really tight to this because I want to show you something that happens when you stack a whole bunch of frames together. You see that black line that's on the side and all that other stuff that's there? Those are what they call stacking artifacts. So when you take all of those, however many images they took, I think it was 12 images of this particular, excuse me, filter, red, and they stack them all together, and because they're moving around when they stack them, you're going to get edges that are going to be off center from each other. So they're what they call stacking artifacts. So you want to get rid of those. So how you get rid of those is you just crop them out. So we're going to go ahead and crop that out. And it's very simple to do. You go to your dynamic crop tool. Again, if you don't have one set up in your tool chest yet, we go over to process, all processes, and we're going to go down to, and as we know, it's in alphabetical order, dynamic crop. And there's my tool. You simply click on the tool and we'll just reset it. Your picture will turn a little kind of light, and that's good. That's what you want. That means you know that the tool is active. So now we're going to take and crop in just enough to get rid of that stacking artifact on that side. Let's just say that's enough. I'm not going to get tweaky with this because we have a lot to unpack. But so we're just going to take this in because usually edge artifacts will be on every edge. So there. So I'm not going to execute this yet because I have to do my hydrogen alpha and my master loom. I have to do them the same because we're going to eventually blend those together. So they have to be the same line, or they have to line up with each of these images. So I'm just going to take and open up my luminance. I'm going to drag and drop this onto there. And it's just did that crop that I'm going to do on this one. But,
can you tell me, how did you do that drag and drop again? You click that triangle, right?
Yep. Okay. I'm going to do the other one again.
Okay.
So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to put him away. And so we're going to do that again. That was the loom. We're going to do it to the hydrogen alpha. Okay. So we open up our hydrogen alpha. You don't even have to open it, but I want to show you this anyway. And then what happens is because we've already got the tool set to do it for this one, I'm using the same settings on these other pictures. So what you do is you go to the bottom corner, and then there's the little blue triangle. This is your execution button. It's called New Instance. I want to put a new instance of this tool on this image. So I just simply click on it, drag it over to the image and drop it on. You'll see that it just made that cut. So now this is cropped. So I can actually put this one away. And I'll do that. And then finally, I'm going to execute this on this image. And there. Now I've just got cropped all three images, and all three of them are going to be identical to where the crop is. So we know that using these images down the road, they're going to line up. And let me just show you that because this is kind of important. So if we take the image and you want to see if it's lined up, well, right now we have a shrunk image and it doesn't look like this one at all. So what we want to do is on the side of your pictures, there are 4 icons down here. If you go to the third one down, it's called Zoom to Optimal Fit. Just click on it and it will fit your image to its best fit for this. And basically these are the way that the images were when you open them. So then if you want to make sure that your stars are lined up so that you didn't make a mistake on your crop, because if you get so deep into this and you crop this wrong, you're going to have to do some work. So all you do is hover your mouse over the blue area and bring and drag this right over top of the other image. And what that does, if you press on the mouse on the blue, it turns it into a transparent so you can see right through it. So you can see that my stars are all lined up. So I know that that crop was effective. If for some reason I try to do it like this, this one big, this one small, and I try to line it up, what's going to happen is you're going to see all these stars that align and you're going to say, oh my gosh, what did I do? You just got to make sure that before you line up images for transparency to see if they're going to work, you should make sure they're both in the same format. So I'm going to go to Zoom to Optimal Fit, drag that over, set it on top of this one, simply click the button on top, and yes, all of my stars are lined up. I'm good to go. Okay, when you're comfortable with that, just don't ever close your image. That'll close it for good. Just basically iconize it. And what it does, it'll turn it into an icon like that. And wherever you put it on the screen, every time you open and close it, it'll go right back to that spot. Okay. Any questions to that so far?
No questions.
Perfect. Okay.
Great explanation.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I just said great explanations. Thank you.
Okay. So that's our dynamic crop tool. Now, if I wanted to save that tool and put it on my desktop, it's a really simple thing to do. You take that little blue triangle that's in the corner, drag it and just drop it on your screen. what it does, it creates a clone of this image, or of this tool rather, sorry. So then you can just right click it the same as you did the identifier here. You right click it, and then you go ahead and set the icon identifier. So I want to call this, let's just call it Paul's crop. P-A-U-L, Paul's. And remember, we're using the underscore crop. And I hit OK. And there's my tool. I'll throw it over here. And now I've just created my tool. If I want to save that to my toolbar, at the end of this session, I'll show you how to do that. But that's basically how you would create and save a tool on this side. And that's what I've done to each and every one of the tools that you see. I don't really need this one, so I'm just going to get rid of it. Okay, so I'm going to close my tool. Dynamic crop is done. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is, in most cases, in most images, we would do what they call dynamic background extraction. I'm not going to do it on this image because the data that's on this image is extremely good. And there is more nebulosity on this image than you can actually see. And the whole actual image that you're looking at has got nebulosity on it. So there really isn't a background to actually to mitigate on this. So for simplicity, I'm not going to do a dynamic background extraction, but on later episodes, we're going to get into that because everything else moving forward is going to have lots of sky around the objects. And then we're going to get right into that dynamic background extraction tool. You'll notice I have two of them. One's the dynamic background and one's an automatic background. They both do the same thing. One does a simpler version, one does more of a manual lifting version, if you will. But what they're designed to do is to take away gradients that you may get. Most of us shoot with some kind of light pollution, which means we're going to have light spots and dark spots on our pictures, or the colors may not be the same, or maybe we shot on a moonless or a night where the moon was up and there's lights all over the place. And also sometimes you get dark corners, vignetting they call it. So in the dynamic background extraction tool, it'll show you how to take care of those, all that stuff. But right now, this data is wonderful. It was shot in the dark sky. It was on a moonless night. So
yeah,
we're just going to skip ahead of that one for this round. But we are going to do our color calibration. Now, color calibration is basically just aligning our red and our green and our blue so that they're all on the image equally. So we have an equal amount of red, green, and blue, and it's distributed properly throughout the image. There are a number of ways you can do it. I'm going to show you if you're just starting in this. There is, remember in the beginning we talked about scripts where somebody actually wrote a little formula that will do this calibration for you in the push of a button. I want to show you that right now. So if we go to, instead of process, we're going to go to script, because this in fact is a script. So we go to script and we go to utilities, and that's where this particular script is going to be. Then we're just going to go over, and this one is called auto color. And that's exactly what it is. I'm going to press the button and I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, and it's going to do everything for me.
well,
Sorry?
that's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to. It's all you. It's all you.
Go ahead, Allendria.
No, it's fine. Mine is not related to this, so go ahead.
Okay. So this is ready. So so it's done its work, or almost done its work. Sorry, my little wheel is still turning. So wheels go round and round and round. It shouldn't take too long. It's usually a pretty quick script. What it's doing really is measuring the background or the intensity of each of those channels, the red, the green, and blue, and it's trying to even them all up. So now it's done. So the first thing that we want to do is unstretch the image and then restretch it. Now we have a red, green, and blue image that has been color calibrated. Okay, so it's just that simple. The other process that you will use probably when you start is color calibration. It takes a few steps, and I think on the next target that we do, we'll use that tool, and we'll show you how to use that one. But
Karen has a quick question.
Yes,
if you wanted to know the name again, the tool, I think.
Yes. Yeah, okay, so if you go to script, utilities, and it's called auto color.
Auto color.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like the car, auto color. And it is a script. You may have to download it and put it in there because a lot of the scripts you'll find that people talk, oh, here's a new script when you go on YouTube, and usually they'll have it in the description. You go to the description and they'll put a link right to it. You click on it, you download it, and it goes into, there's a process, but it will get into PixInsight. I don't want to get into that just yet because that's all about repositories and things like that. So, but in the event that you don't have the script and you're having a hard time downloading it, you can use color calibration. And just to take 2 seconds to show it to you, it's real simple. You don't need to do anything with the top section. All you're going to do is make sure that the structure detection is checked. And all it's going to do, it needs what they call a white reference and a background reference. So if you use the stars as a white reference, that is your structure detection. So it will use the stars. So you need not do anything up here. And then down here, you have your reference image. That's if you're going to use background. I would pick up a little slice of the background, and then I would create a preview, just simply like this. And I would say, that's my background. So preview 1 is my background. Then I would simply go over to my target image and open it up. And again, remember, when we do that, all of the things that are on our screen are here. So that is called preview 1. I click on preview 1 and hit OK. It input my background reference to this. Once I've done that, then all I do is I take that little triangle in the bottom, drag it and drop it, and then that's it. Your color calibration will be complete. So I want to show you that just in case you don't have that auto script in there. So.
Oh, and Gaurav has asked, why do you do white reference? Is that like a white balance?
So the white there's a white reference that you would use. Let me just open that up again. So the white reference is the brighter spot of the brightest spot on the image. Mm-hmm. And the background reference, of course, is usually the darkest spot. And when you pull a background reference, and I forgot to mention this because I was trying to get through this, and I do apologize for that. What you want to do is not lay this over a star, and do not lay it on the nebulosity. Mm-hmm. And that's why I use the auto script, because I don't have to worry about trying to find background on this.
Right.
If I was looking for background, then I would just basically take this picture, and again, using your mouse, roll it up, look for a spot in the sky that does not have a star. When it's that big, it's easy to find. Use your little preview window and just cut a little slice of it there, and that creates your preview. And that's what you put in there.
So I guess that answers the question. Yeah, he just asked, they just asked, can we do background reference with stars in it? And I'm guessing that the answer is you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, not what you can use. There can be stars in the image, but there can't be stars in
your background reference. Yeah. So you want to find an area that's as dark as possible, and so it's kind of it's a balancing tool, right? So that the program knows this is what you want to look like white in the image. This is what you want to look as dark as possible in the image, and then it finds all the stuff in the middle.
Yeah. It's the background is what you're looking for, and that's why you don't want to lay it on the nebulosity. Yeah. If you do, it will calibrate using it. It'll make your image look terrible. So why it's called a background reference is because it's dealing with background only. So in that sample, no stars and no nebulosity.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So put that tool away. So now we're color calibrated. So we're moving right along here. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to reduce the noise in the image. And no matter how clean and how many images we take, and we always take lots and lots and lots of images to stack them all up to actually give us a better signal picture to noise that we want. Because we only take one picture, we're going to see all this fuzziness all over it. That is noise and not a lot of signal. And that's why we collect more and more and more data to increase our signal and reduce our noise. But it never takes care of it completely. So we have tools to take care of that too. So I'm going to go to one of the dark corners of this image, and I'm going to blow this up, and you're going to see all this spottily, mottly kind of stuff going on there. That is an uneven background, and that is noise. So we need to reduce that. So how do we do that? It's actually quite simple. We go to our multi-linear scale transfer tool, and to find that, if you haven't already saved it here, process, all processes, multi-scale linear transform. Click on it, and this tool will appear. It looks a little intimidating, but really it's not. It's a very simple tool. So the first thing that we want to do is when we use this tool is we don't want to use a stretched image, because we're going to create a little bit of a mask to actually protect some of the areas that we don't want to do a lot of aggressive noise reduction to. Because if we do that, if we're too aggressive with our noise reduction, then our fine detail will suffer, and that's the penalty you pay. So you have to be as careful as you can to protect that, and we do that with the mask. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go up to our stretch tools, and remember, this one stretched it, this one made it brighter, but these two will actually turn it off. So we got this turned off. The image is still there, but it's just not stretched. So what we're going to do here is we're going to open our preview mask, turn it on. When I turn this on, all of my tools above are going to disappear. Don't worry about that because we don't need them right now. All we want to do is create that mask. Well, right now, we still see black because we haven't done our preview. So if you look at the bottom of all of these dynamic tools, it will have that little circle. That's actually a blue circle, not a solid circle. And that's our real-time preview. So when you click on that, it's actually going to create another image of the one that you're looking at. But this time, it created it with a mask on it. Normally, this would not be set. So I'm going to show you what you would see when you opened it. And you may think, oh my good golly, what is this mess? All I'm seeing is black. I don't even see the stars anymore. What did I do? How do I get out of this? Well, at this stage, we are just creating this mask. So in this particular software, or this particular data set that you're using, that you're going to practice with, my estimation on this has been between 30 and 40 seems to be a really good, healthy spot for the mask for this. So when your mask is inverted, in other words, the blacks and the whites are opposite of what they should be, the black conceals and the white reveals. So it's the white area is the area that the noise reduction is going to be affecting, and it's the black areas that is going to be protected. So we want to protect our stars. We don't want to reduce those. And you'll find too, as you get into this, the brighter the parts of your image, usually the less noise that's there. The darker the parts, the more evident the noise. So we need to mitigate all that. So once you've got your mask set up to where you're comfortable, and the settings, and the smoothness on the bottom, what that's designed to do, it's just like a feather. If you've ever done anything in Photoshop where they've asked you a feather edge, and what feathering is to take the sharpness and smooth it out so it's not real sharp edge from that edge of that star. It kind of blends a little bit and makes the transitions nice and smooth. On this particular tool, if you ever forget where to go on it, if you hover over that little tool, Pixensight always give you explanations of what you're doing with that slider. What this particular slider will tell you, if you look down the bottom, it says, you look, big down this corner, every time I take it off, it'll go away, of course, but it'll say values are usually in the range from 1 to 3. So that's a good starting point if you're starting out with this. Follow the little instructions they give you. So let's put this one at 3, and I find 3 very effective, and it'll create a nice soft edge from for the transition between the stars and the rest of the image. Once we've got that done, you no longer need this mask. You're not turning it off. You're just turning off the preview. The mask is still incorporated in the tool. And then once you've got that done, you're just going to simply release the preview mask, and that will turn back on the tools we need to make our adjustment. Before we do that, let's restretch our picture. Okay, so now we've made our mask. The mask is hidden within the tool. You don't even have to think about it anymore. So long as that linear mask is checked, you know it's working. So then we've got these 4 numbers up here. These are considered layers. And when they do noise reduction, it's done in layers, like an onion. The top one is thicker. The one below that's a little less thick. The one below that's a little less thick. And they're going basically from really, really dark frequencies, low frequencies, up to the real high frequencies. The main 2 that you want to be concerned with for the most part are the first 2. They will have the most effect on when you're using this noise reduction tool. So the defaults on this image actually work quite well. But if you had to change them for any reason, I just want to give you just a short explanation of how to do this. I'm just going to change one parameter. Anything that is orange is what you're actually going to be changing when you go into here where it says noise reduction. So if you look here, it says threshold 5.000. Up here on that first orange one is 5.000. So that tells us that on layer 1, my threshold is 5.000. If you look at that next number, 0.085, that is your amount. So on this particular layer, 0.085 is my amount. And that final number on the end is 1, and that is the amount of iterations I'm going to use on that layer. And that's really all that is. No matter which one that you go to, all you're doing is looking at that same tool every time. You just select the one you want to change. All I'm going to do is take this from 5,000 to 4,000. And when I do that, watch what happens up here. It changed to 4,000 because that's the slider that I moved, and that's the parameter that it changed. That's it. So if you want more layers on a more complex image, you can go to the drop down and you can add as many layers as you want to. But typically 4 in most images, especially for what we're doing, works just fine. So if we're happy with our settings, we know we've got our mask on there. All we have to do now is simply drop and drag. I'm going to do a little, I'm going to blow this image up, and I want to go to a corner because I'm not going to do a preview on this because I just want you to see what happens effectively, and then we'll move on. So all we're going to do is drag and drop onto our image. And every time you do any kind of a function, this tool will pop out and you'll see PixInsight working away, doing all what it does computer-wise to make the changes on your image. And when it's done, that will just stop and it'll move out of your way. So what I want to impress upon you here now is anytime you do an image and you want to see the before and after, we always like before and after. Up here, this little undo button is right there. And if I undo it, it'll flip it back to do, of course. So if I undo the image, look at all the noise that was on that image before in that dark region. Now I'm going to do the after. I'm going to apply the noise reduction. Look how smooth it got. Before, after, before, after. So that's a very effective tool. It did a great job on it. I'm pleased with that. I've already added into the image, so this tool I need no longer. So I put it away. So now my image has been cropped. And if we used dynamic background extraction, we would have done that. We color calibrated it, and we now added some noise reduction. So our next step here is we're going to take this image, which is linear, and we're going to turn it to nonlinear, which simply means we're going to stretch it permanently. All the stretching you see that's been done up here with these tools is just so that you can look into the image. They're not permanent stretches. That's why every time I press this button, it goes black because it's not stretched. This is just an auto stretch function so you can see what's going on. So the other thing that you're going to have, and you will use a lot, is called screen transfer function. I'm going to open that tool. And what this is, this in fact is the stretching tool that you're using, and this turns it off and on up here. So if I turn this off and I go ahead and open up this tool, and you're going to see this little nuclear button. If you press on that nuclear button, it's going to stretch the image. There it is, but it's not very bright, is it? So if you want it a little bit brighter, you can either boost the stretch up here, or you can actually have your screen transfer button do it for you. What you do is you press your control button on a PC. I don't know on a Mac. Control button on a PC and press that button, and then you're going to get this little box. You just want to go towards this target background, and it says 1. That's the default. If you want to put it to say even 1.5 or even 2, we'll just go to 2 just for fun. Hit OK, and it will automatically stretch it. So when you're using this tool off and on, now you'll have more of a stretch. You'll have more of a boosted stretch.
And so stretching is really just to make it brighter.
Stretching just makes it brighter until we do the stretch function, the permanent stretch, which is what we're going to do now. But yes, absolutely. Anytime you want to look at an image, because while they are in their linear state, if you were to save it, like if I was to save this picture, it wouldn't save it like that. It'll save it as a black picture because it's not stretched. So we need to stretch it now. So how we're going to do that is there's two methods. The simplest one that people use is they use the screen transfer function. They open it up because they say, you know what, that's stretched enough. I like the looks of that. Then they're going to open up their histogram transformation tool. If you have not downloaded histogram transformation, all processes, histogram transformation. That's where you'll find it. So we're going to open up our histogram transformation tool.
And so a histogram will show me the data of the image. And so the color data, basically, or the light data for each.
That's correct.
Frequency.
Just like on your camera that you use to take pictures sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
on the back of that camera, you'll see this little mountain that comes up when you take your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
That shows you where you are with your image, where the data actually sits on that image.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the histogram does. And that's what this tool is going to show us as we actually start to apply it. So what the histogram does, and thank you for mentioning that, a histogram shows you the difference in data. And when we're looking at a histogram like this, we're using grayscale. So we're using 255 shades of gray. So down here would be 0, which would be black. Anything at 0 or below has no information. And on this side here would be 255 or white. Anything above that has no information. The slider in the center is our gray point or our midpoint. And anywhere we push that back and forth, it's actually going and moving our mountain, if we will, back and forth, so that the information that we have, the data we have on that histogram is where we want it in our image. So that's what the histogram does. And this one, you're going to see that there's two of them. We're going to use this one on the bottom. So the first thing that we want to do is, if we like the stretch that we saw from our screen transfer function, then all we do is we leave this alone. And again, another one of these drag and drop. You'll start to see the more we do this, the more you're going to repeat a whole bunch of things. We're going to take that new instance and we're going to put it on the bottom bar of our histogram transformation tool. And it's now applied that stretch to this histogram. Now we're going to take the histogram, which is our permanent stretch tool. The screen transfer function is a temporary stretch. The histogram transformation will make this permanent. We're going to take that same little triangle, but this time from our histogram transformation tool, and we're going to drop it onto our image. And you're going to say, oh, good golly, what did I do? Well, I turned the picture white.
Oh, no.
Thank you very much. Got to start all over. No,
That's a bright nebula.
that's one bright nebula. So don't panic, folks, because what's happened now is you did not turn off your screen transfer. So we're just double stretched. That's all. Go ahead and turn off your screen transfer. And there you go. We have now we don't need that tool anymore. We can actually close that off. So now we've actually stretched our image to a point where we can see it. And we may like the looks of that image. We may want to stretch it a little bit more. And if you do, like all the other dynamic tools, look for that little blue circle. That's not solid. That's just a circle with a hole in it, like a donut. And you can turn on a real-time preview. And let me just reset that. Turn on your real-time preview, and you actually have a copy of this image right here. But this one is actually, it's like a working tool. It's like whatever I do to this tool, it's going to show me in real time what I'm going to actually do to this image when I apply it. So if I want to stretch this a little bit more, the first thing I want to do is hit this little check button. This is my track view. And this now shows me that histogram that we talked about. This is that little mountain. This is where all our data is sitting, right? So if I want to make this image just a little darker in the background, then I will take my black slider and slide it over just a little bit. I don't want to get too dark, because if I push it too much, I'm actually clipping data. Remember how we said if we go below the 0 on the dark, we have no information? That means anything from here over on this image, there's no information there. So we don't want to clip out our blacks. We want that because that's where a lot of the faint details hide, is in that darker area.
Yeah, clipping is bad. That's our photo of the week judges are often talking about clipping. And because then when there's lost data, there's lost data. It's like there's something missing. It's a bit of a, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it's good for people to know that, because if you ever decide you want to print something, and if you've clipped whites or darks, then there's nothing, the printer won't print it. There's no data.
Mhm.
So it won't come out as anything.
Yeah.
It's just either black or white. There's nothing in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, that's very important not to clip your data. You'll find most of the astro imagers do not use that white slider. We always leave that one alone because we determine the white balance when we did a lot of the other things prior. So that's really, we shouldn't have to worry about that. The middle slider, however, can brighten your image up a little bit more if you want it a little bit brighter to work on. And in this particular case, I think I want mine a little brighter because I want to be able to see some of those dark areas and whatnot. So once I've got the image to where I like it, and I like to keep it, if you look at those three lines, four columns, we'll consider column 1, 25%, column 2, 50, and so on, up to 100. If we can keep our data somewhere around that column line right there, somewhere around that 25%, it's usually pretty good. So I can get that there from my gray point. But when I take the blacks down some, because I might be too bright, it'll pull it back a little bit. So this is where you kind of need to practice this. And what you want to do is make sure that you don't black out things, but you don't make your data so bright that it's just washed out looking. So you want a little dynamic range in it. So I kind of like, say right about there. I'm happy with that. So if I want to apply that to the image as my final stretch, I can do it two ways. I can take the little triangle as a new instance and drag it and drop it onto the image, or I can press this little square and it will execute it for me. It will apply it. When I apply it, it applies it to the image, but we haven't taken the double stretch off, and that's why this one turns brighter, but it doesn't matter. It's just your preview. Close it, close the histogram, and we are now stretched. We now have a stretched red, green, blue image.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that is probably the longest part getting to that section. Because of the time, I'm trying to keep this short. There are other things that you may want to do at this stage to this image in the forms of creating some dynamic range, contrast, if you will, sharpen things up a little bit, add a little more color, because as we said,
Yeah, like the pink that's in the background behind us, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So all I'm going to do with this before I move on to the next stage, I'm going to skip a couple of things that I would do, but we are going to do those in some other videos, because realistically, if we can get from getting our red, blue, green image put together nicely, taking the hydrogen alpha, putting it on top, and then taking our luminance and putting it on top, if we can get that much done from this session, then that will be absolutely wonderful. And I think that will give everybody out there a whole lot to work on. Okay.
It's a great start.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead with our curves transformation tool. And with this one, again, it's another dynamic tool. So what we want to do is create a real-time preview. The real-time preview will become your best friend because you're doing everything on this. I like what I see. I can apply it to my image. All I want to do here is I want to add a little color. I just want to boost the color. So if you look at this tool, it's the curves transformation tool. It has red, green, blue, RGB, lightness, and a whole bunch of different tints, if you will. We're just going to go to our saturation. I just want to push the colors a bit on this. So you go to the center of this thing, and it's like a curve, just like a curve in Photoshop. You push it up, and you can start to see the color starting to come to life here. Mm-hmm. Be careful not to saturate too much, because normally there are other steps which we'll get into down the road where I would actually remove the stars, color this, and then put the stars back. But right now, I'm just going to do it globally. I'm going to do everything at once. So I'm not going to be as aggressive with my color fetch, but you'll get the idea. So if you just add a little bit of color to this, there we go. That's nice. We'll say that's good enough. I like that. Beautiful. I'm happy. So again, you can drag and drop, or you can just apply. Let's apply. Okay, that looks terrible. It's a preview. Don't worry about it. That's actually your picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done what we would call a little bit of color saturation. So now, based on all of that, there is another noise mitigation thing that we could do here, which I'm not going to do today because it is a finite type of noise reduction. And for what we're doing here today, it probably won't make that much difference. Once you get fussy, it'll make a lot of difference. But at this stage, I think we'll not do it, but it's called TVG denoise. And what that's designed to do is to take out a lot of that high frequency noise. If I blow the picture up, for example, I'll just show you what it would take care of. See if I can find some of those funny looking artifacts. I know they're in here. We did a good job on the first.
Yeah, we found them before when we were doing the practice
yeah.
session.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what they are, there's one right there. There's
Yeah.
one right there. Let me just show you what that is. Whoops. Where did it go?
Was it
There.
just below? Or
So you
there?
see that spot right there, that little ugly little patch? It almost looks like somebody tried to erase ink or something on it. I don't know if you can see that on your screen. But
we
anyway, it's
I can.
that kind of noise that will be mitigated with this procedure. And it will also give you another smoothing of your image, all those little spots, color blotches. It'll take care of all that. But we're not going to do that one today. We will do that on the next video. Okay, so we're good to go. We have stretched and we're good. We're done as far as I'm concerned with our red, green, blue. So we're just going to shrink him down. Oh, before we do that, sorry, let's go to our identifier. And we're now going to call this RGB because it is red, green, blue. That's now our RGB image. That's the one we're going to be using moving forward. So let's shrink him down and put him out of the way. And we'll park him over here for now. Now we need to work on our hydrogen alpha. I love
Awesome.
hydrogen alpha. Before we get to this, are there any questions?
It doesn't look like let's see. No questions related to this presentation, just one, here we do. Jackson, how do I get the images you are working with to practice? Okay, so that's the SkyNews website. I put the link in the chat just a little bit earlier. I'll post it again. Here we go. I'll just grab it from, at any rate, I'll post that right away.
Okay.
And so there. So there's where you can get the information. And Bruce is just asking about the schedule for presentations, and we're going to be doing these presentations once a month. And so this is when the new data comes out from the robotic telescope. We're going to be playing around with that new data. And I don't think I've mentioned it anywhere yet, but you guys get the news right as soon as it's happening. But the next object we've got is the Trifid Nebula. So that's going to be very colorful. Yeah.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are our questions so far.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
That is great. The Trifid is just such a beautiful nebula. And you know what? It's kind of neat that you're doing both of these together, because a lot of wide field imagers will actually shoot these both at the same time in the same frame. And it makes an absolutely wonderful image. Oh, just beautiful.
Yeah, one of our recent photo of the week winners did that. You see, so you had the lagoon and then you had the Trifid just nearby. And it's really neat to see the color difference.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah. It's funny.
chemical difference.
Yeah, and the Trifids, it's anyway, all of these astronomical images are so cool. I think that's why we're all hooked on this hobby. So
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to hydrogen alpha. And so hydrogen alpha is what they call, this particular data was captured with what they call a line filter. And what a line filter is, it's a filter that it narrows down on one specific wavelength. Now, hydrogen alpha centers at 656 nanometers. In the color spectrum, from basically your deep blues right on up to the red spectrum, that whole color spectrum, when you're doing narrowband, which is what this is, when they call it a line filter, it is one very specific color. And because it is so narrow, the first thing that you'll notice when you start playing with this data is the stars are smaller. The bloating is down because it's really narrow. But the filter they used in this, if you look up in the name of this, it says HA7. So that HA7 just simply means that the nanometer, the width of the band that they sliced out of that color spectrum was 7 nanometers wide. So that's what that 7 means. If you had a 12 nanometer filter, it will center it at 656, but it would be 12 nanometers wide, which would encompass more colors on either side of that actual specific line. So whenever you see the number attached to your HA, that is the actual width of the band that's on the filter that was used. And that's an important thing. And I wanted to point that out because when we do our blend, that's going to rear its head. I want to show you that. Okay, so this is really simple. What we're going to do is I'm going to kind of push through this a little bit, but these are the steps that are essential. So the first thing that we want to do with this, first of all, we don't have to color calibrate because I'm not trying to line anything up. It's one color. It's one data set. So we don't worry about that. I would do dynamic background extraction with each and every one of the images. So just to know that that would be part of this. We've already cropped it, but we are going to do some noise reduction on it. So again, we're going to use the same procedure. I'm going to push through it a little quicker, but I think based on how we're flowing with this, you'll start to see how it all starts to kind of make a little sense, and you can start to see some repetition, which is very important when you're creating a workflow. So, multi-scale linear transfer. So what we need to do, because again, we've not stretched this image, it's still linear. We want to turn off the stretch. That's what we need. And then we're going to turn on our preview mask. It's going to turn off our tools. And then we're going to, again, dynamic tool, the little circle on the bottom. He's your best friend. We're going to create that preview. So there's the preview. Now what you're seeing is kind of funky looking, but we're going to adjust that. So what this is a mask. And you're going to learn as you go through this more and more and more how important masks are and how useful they are, and how once you kind of get a real good handle on masks, how effective they are at getting you the results you want. So this particular mask is inverted, which means that the black that would normally be white, the white would normally be black. So in this particular mask, the black conceals, the white reveals. Okay, so we've covered all that. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use the same mask that we used before. We'll just use the same parameters, take it down to about 30 to 40 to where you're happy with it. Keep in mind that this data is a little bit different than the RGB, and things are tinier, sharper, cleaner, and there's a lot more information. So, so you don't want to wipe out too much of that finite detail. So let's smooth it up to about 3. There we go. We'll just call it 3 because my hands aren't that steady. And so again, if you want to get a little more aggressive with the protection, which I might on this, because H alpha is where a lot of the detail is going to be in, especially this data, because this one has, I believe this is the most time on this particular filter. Or they shot these in the longer individual frames. So, okay, so we're going to say, you know what, this is good. So we turn off our mask preview. We turn off this tool. We know that our linear mask is still engaged because it's checked. So it's within the tool. We can go up here and make our adjustments. So we need to restretch the image so we can see where we are. We need to, and what I would do in all cases is create a little preview first. And once we create that preview, we simply click on the preview tab, because anytime you create a preview, it will show up right below your identifier. When you click on it, that's what you're now looking at, is the preview and not the master image. So we've clicked on the preview. Now what we're going to do is, let's say we've already made the adjustments to the tool. And so we're going to blow this up, and you can see how clean this data is. I mean, this is absolutely gorgeous data, but we're going to try to find some noise in it. So basically all you would do again is drag and drop, and remember, we're only applying this to the preview. The reason you do previews is because instead of doing the whole image with all the resolution, if you do just a small part of it, as you do your previews, it goes much quicker. So I can see quite a difference in that. You may not be able to, but the data itself is so clean. I can see quite a difference there actually. If I just take the stretch down a bit on that, maybe too much. Yeah, too much, darn. Okay. In any event, it worked the same as the other did. So once you're happy with the preview, sorry.
Nope, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay, yep. So once you're happy with the preview, then you simply click on the image again. Now we're back to the image and we're going to apply it to the image. Simply take your little triangle, drag and drop, and you'll find that it'll go very quickly once you've used the preview. Once you've got that done, we've now reduced the noise on our hydrogen alpha data. We're going to close that tool. We no longer need it. I don't want the preview anymore. So you can actually open the preview, right click on it, and delete it. So now you're just back with the file. So the only thing we have to do now with this H alpha data, or all we're going to do with this H alpha data today, is we're just going to stretch it. We got to do that permanent stretch. It has to be stretched. So all we're going to do is unstretch it. And we're going to use the same procedure we did earlier. We're going to open up our screen transfer function. We're going to stretch it with our screen transfer. If I don't like what I see there, if I need more brightness, I can do that. If I double click on this, actually it didn't save it. Yeah, it did. Here we go. So if you press the shift key on the PC and the little nuclear button, you can then switch between bright and not so bright, bright and not so bright. So and it's just like having these two controls up here, but so you can do that on this tool. Okay, so let's brighten them up. There we go. So if I like the brightness of that, and it might be a little bright really, what you can do here just to make it not so bright, but before was, this is sort of like too bright, and the one before wasn't bright enough. So you can actually take the little plus button right here, click on it, and the only, you see how these G, B, and L are X'd out? They're not effective because this is grayscale. This is only luminance really, as far as this tool is concerned. So if I go on the plus button and then I just click, lay it over top of that band that is in effect, you can see that I can open up my sliders. This is my gray point slider on the histogram. This is my black point. So now that I've got this open, I simply click my arrow button again. Now I can control these sliders, and that's what we're going to do. So if I want my image to not be so bright, I can play with my dark point a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I can also play with my gray point. So what we want to do is up in this corner, there is all kinds of very fine hydrogen alpha cloud that you may have not seen to this point. But if I really stretch the image, look at it all. Remember I told you before, this image has so much hydrogen alpha that there really is no background. It's all covered in AK. So I just want to show that. It's so important to see that. And that's why we didn't do DBE. So I'm just going to set it up so that it looks good. You know what? Let's say this is fine. If I like this, now we're going to open up, not this multi-scale, I'm just going to put this away. And we're going to open up that histogram transformation again. We're going to reset. That's what this X in the corner is for. That will reset the tool. I'm going to lock it onto this image and we're reset. Now what we're going to do is take that little triangle on the screen transfer, put it on the bottom of our histogram transformation tool. It applies our stretch to the histogram. We take the little triangle from the histogram transformation tool, drop it on our image. It applies the stretch. It turned white, but we know why, because we're still stretched twice. Turn that stretch off. Now we are permanently stretched. We can put away our screen transfer function. We can put away our histogram transfer function tool. And now we have a stretched and noise reduced hydrogen alpha channel. And this one here, you might want to get into making it a little darker. I'm not going to do that today. I think we will on our next one, because here what I would do is try to get more contrast in this image. And then basically that's what this little tool right here is for. Again, it's dynamic. just to show you what it might do. That's way, way overdone. Put that, say, to 30, and then drop this to 1.5. And I'm just going through this tool quickly because we will be coming to it again. But the whole idea behind this is to create some contrast with this tool. So you can see there on the preview how it's making that adjustment. I kind of like that. Oops, that's my monitor. Don't worry about that. I like that adjustment, so I'm just going to go ahead and apply it, drag and drop, and I'm going to apply it to the image. Because I just wanted a little bit more dynamic range on that. It just needs it. Because otherwise it'll be very dim and bright and washy when we blend them together, which is going to be our next step. This one takes a little bit of time, but it's chewing through pretty fast. It's done.
Yeah.
So we can get rid of our preview. We can get rid of our, turn off our local histogram transformation. You know what I mean, that tool.
Yeah.
And now we have our hydrogen alpha ready to be married to our red, green, blue data.
Our beautiful hydrogen alpha. Look at that.
Oh, look at it. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, I could shoot hydrogen alpha all the time. And by the way, if you are in the heart of the city and you want to do astro imaging with deep sky objects, if you have a monochrome camera and you love our HRG, our hydrogen alpha as much as I do, because it's such a narrow band, you can actually shoot. There's a guy named Chuck Ayub down in Chicago, and he's got a ton of APODs. He's in every magazine out there, and he's in Bortle class 8 skies, 20 minutes from the Chicago airport, and he shoots amazing images. So don't think you have to be in dark skies to be able to do astrophotography. Just want to get that in there. Okay, so what we want to do now is blend these two together. There are a number of ways to do it. We can do it in what they call pixel math, which we'll do on an episode down the road. But this tool here, I think you'll find will work very well. We're going to go back to our scripts. You go to script, go to utilities, and scooch all the way down to NB RGB combination. That simply means narrow band, red, green, blue combination. And that's what we want to do. Open up the tool, and you're just going to see not much anything here because we have to load our information into there first. Actually, let me just close this tool for a second, because what I did not do was try to see what I have. RGB, master HA. Okay, those are the two files I'll need to blend. Utilities, narrowband combination. There we go. So this is a simple script. Your RGB source image. So that's where our red, green, blue image that we did all the work on is going to go. So all we have to do is open up our thing. Everything that's on the screen is there, and it's our RGB image. So we're going to click on that. That integrated our RGB image into this tool. We don't adjust bandwidth on this or anything. Next tool is going to be our narrow band for the red channel, because what we're going to be doing is blending our hydrogen alpha into the red channel.
Right.
So what do? We click on the source. We find our master HA, which is the one we just got finished doing. And now it's in there. Now, remember what a minute ago when I told you about the bandwidth, the 7 nanometers, I explained that? Well, there it is right there. So this is a 7 nanometer file. And when you're adjusting this tool, if you're using a 12 nanometer filter, when you're adjusting a 7 nanometer filter or 12 nanometer, you go to 12 nanometers. If you got a 3, you go to 3. So this one is defaulting at 7, which is great. So we've got a 7 nanometer filter. Now, the scale is the important part. The scale is the amount of blend that we're going to do. If I put too much hydrogen alpha, the image is going to be totally red and we can't get anything out of it. So we have to figure out where to put that. I'm not going to experiment like I did on my own. I'm just going to tell you what works on this one so you can save the frustration. So I found that between 40 and 50 is a nice blend for this. So that is all you do. You go up to this area here, and you're going to go to NB RGB. You're just going to push the button, and as the little leprechaun says, it's magically delicious. It'll do everything for you. There
it is.
If we like it, we're okay with it, we're going to apply it. And that's it. That's all it took to blend those two images. Very, very simple. I'll show you the before and after. Okay, so let's close this out. We no longer need that. and it left us with an image, and it's called NB RGB. So it's created its own identifier. So you can see now there's the image before the hydrogen alpha. Here's the image with the hydrogen alpha. I was very reserved on it because as you push colors, it will just jump out like a sore thumb. We no longer need our RGB. We're going to hide him away. We no longer need our HA. We're going to hide him away. Now we're going to be dealing with this. The last step in this, well, I shouldn't say the last step. If I was going to do more to this, this is where I would really play with this image and bring out the detail and all that. I'm not going to do that now. We will do that again a little further because I'm keeping an eye on the time. I think we're actually very close to where we want to be.
Yep. We'll leave it to the viewers to play around with these things when they send in their photos to us.
Absolutely. Okay. So all we're going to do lastly is we're going to incorporate our luminance image with our, which is now called, by the way, we're going to go to our first day of my new tongue, our identifier, and we're going to call this HA RGB because it is a hydrogen alpha, red, green, blue file now.
Perfect.
All right, so now and this is why I showed you that identifier in the beginning, because we use this tool so much. It is one of the tools you'll be using most. Okay, so now we've got all of this done. So what we need to do now is we need to do the same thing with the loom that we did with our hydrogen alpha. So I'm just going to park the HA RGB for a second, and we'll go through this very quickly. We need to stretch the image. And we need to, again, I would have done dynamic background on this. And we will do our multi-scale linear transfer. That'll only take a minute, just so we can have something clean to look at. And I want to show that we have to do this each and every time. Unstretch the image, turn on your preview mask, open up your preview, make the adjustments down to about, I think in this case, we'll go to say 60. Back up to about 3 for smoothness. And again, these are good for this image. These are kind of really good starting gates for sure. And then once we're happy with that, turn off the tool, turn off our preview mask. We're happy with our settings. If not, we can go ahead and adjust them as we did before. We're going to restretch the image so we can see it. We're going to add, we could do a preview, which I won't at this point, but we're going to incorporate our noise reduction. Once the noise reduction is done and we're happy with that, we close that tool. We are now going to stretch our image. So we're going to close it down again. We're going to bring in our friend, our screen transfer function, little buddy, and then we're going to stretch him. If I want him a little bit more, I can stretch him again with a shift key, press this button, and now I can see him brighter. In this case, I think it's too bright, so I'm actually going to leave it like that. We're going to actually do our permanent stretch. So we're going to reset the tool, and we're going to take our little triangle from the corner and transfer it to the bottom bar on our histogram transformation tool. That has now been applied to our histogram. And like we did 2 other times before, we're going to take that little triangle and drop it on our image. It's going to apply it to the image. The image is now white because we have not taken off our original stretch, which we just did. Close the tool. And I just want to play with this just for a minute, because this is quite important when you're dealing with luminance, because this actually is the channel you could probably spend a lot of time on, because this is the one that's going to lay over top of everything else you've done, all of your fine detail. You would probably do about 6 or 7 or even 8 different processes to this, which again we'll do down the road. One being deconvolution, and deconvolution is probably the most important thing, or one of the important steps that you'll do to your luminance data. What it does is it actually restores a lot of the fine detail and resolution that was lost through the optics, through the atmosphere and all that. It's not sharpening, it's actually a restoration of resolution. And because our luminance image will be the most finite and the most defining image of everything when we're done. There are steps that you would do to do it, but right now we're just want to show you how to combine them, and then we can do those in a later thing. But in order to combine them, we have to stretch them, and we want to certainly always keep in good form, do our noise reduction. Very important. So now that we've got it stretched and we're happy with the stretch, maybe just a little bit more, maybe, I just had to do a candle, so. And we'll apply that, just a little bit of brightness. That's it. We're good to go. Let's now get rid of all of those things. And we have our luminous file. So we are down to the end. One more tool. Whoops. If you do that, and you will do that, fear not, my friends, fear not. All you do is go down to the side here, and you're going to see those 4 little arrows, the same little arrows that are on the side of every picture that you've dealt with tonight. All you're going to do is basically press that top arrow, and you're back.
Phew.
You're back, baby.
We're back in the game.
Okay, so now that we're back together again, all we're going to do now is combine our luminance with our hydrogen alpha RGB gain. And again, like I say, I didn't spend a lot of time, so this isn't going to be as clean as the pictures we have behind us, but this will get you started from start to finish to at least get this process done. So what we're going to do with our final tool, we're going to use LRGB combination, not channel combination, LRGB combination. And then if you don't have it in your tool set, simply go over to processes, all processes, and look for LRGB combination. So you can open it there, or you can open it from your tool set. So we're going to open the tool set. This is so easy. I would almost call this a script. Check your Chroman's noise reduction. You can play with the lightness and saturation. These are extremely sensitive. So if you are going to play with them, this is the lightness, the saturation. So basically the brightness in the image and the color and how much and so on. So you really, you will play with those. And I recommend any tool that you use. If you're going to make an adjustment, don't get all happy and hop to the next adjustment. Play around with the tool for a little bit, get comfortable with it, get comfortable with its characteristics, what it will do, and that will go a long way in your learning journey. So all we're going to do here to finish this off tonight is we're going to take our red and our green and our blue, we're going to turn it off because we're not transferring any red, green, or blue. We're only transferring the luminance information. So again, you can get at the luminance in here 2 ways. You can choose it from the file, or you can drag and drop. Okay. Drum roll, please. Here it comes. So all we're going to do now is simply drag that over here, drop it on our image. Don't worry about the red stuff.
Yeah, the scary red text.
Red stuff is never good, but in this case, we're not going to worry about it. It's actually now combining the luminance with the other image that we did. So we'll just give it a minute to do its thing. Good time to drink a coffee. There it is. Now again, it may be a little dark. So if it is, you can simply go back if you ever have to. We won't today, but because you can lighten up and play with it. But if you ever had to go back, after you've made an adjustment like this and you think, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't done that, always, you've got that undo tool. Nothing is permanent. Undo it, and you're back. And go ahead and adjust your luminance. Try it again. And that's the whole thing with astrophotography. It's trial and error. Everybody does things differently. Once you're happy with it, there's our picture. You can then close your LRGB tool, close your or put away your that, and there is your image. Done.
And that's how you do it.
7 minutes over.
Yeah. And yeah,
All right.
so all right, we've got a couple of questions here now.
Okay.
One question: is it worth getting hydrogen alpha filter when using a color camera?
Yes, and that's an excellent question. Do you mind if I stop sharing and then we can just get?
For sure.
No, let's leave this on just in case
Yeah.
we see it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
great to see the image. Thanks for
Okay.
taking
Sorry.
us through that. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Just look at the little
We
tiny.
can look at it a little more. Yeah.
Okay, so the question was, can you use or should you use hydrogen alpha for one-shot color camera?
This was just for a color camera.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I call them one-shot colors.
Okay, one shot.
Yes, there are specific filters that are made for one-shot or color cameras, and there are ones that are made for mono cameras. The ones that you see out there that everybody on the market is buying are actually either dual band, tri-band, or quad band. And all that means is they are narrow band filters, but they concentrate on very specific slices of the pie of the color spectrum. And then you put that over top of your camera, and it'll actually work very, very well. As a matter of fact, I send Allendria lots of hydrogen alpha photos that are done that way. So the ones you want to look for, opt to long, the L Extreme is an excellent hydrogen alpha /O3 filter. STC make what they call a duo narrowband filter. Again, hydrogen alpha oxygen concentration. A lot of these manufacturers also make quad bands, so you can get some sulfur 2 in there and all that stuff. So to answer your question, yes, you can, but they are specific for a color camera.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Another question here from Eric. Can you remind me, is the luminance image one that was taken with no filters in place?
Yes and no. There's no color in a luminance filter, but most luminance filters will have coatings on them, the anti-reflective coatings and all that kind of stuff. I'm not sure. Again, because I come from the one-shot color world, and this is my first attempt at using this, so this has been a good learning curve for me too. But typically, no, it's just a clear, it will be like a clear image. That's just basically a monochromatic image taking of the sky with no impedance whatsoever, other than whatever filter. I'll use the word filtration, but just coatings for reflectiveness and stuff.
Yeah, and David clarified too. He just added a note that luminance filters block infrared and UV. So
right.
IR,
because there is bloating in the stars that will happen if you do not use those, because our sensors they'll pick that up and they'll make things a little funny. So when you put those filters or the IR UV filters in, it actually takes care of that. Most of the one-shot color cameras that you buy, or a lot of the cameras you buy, that little glass window that's in front of the sensor will have that built in.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you for that. And I'll just double check here. If we don't have any other questions, it doesn't look like we have any on YouTube right now. And when is the next session? When did we say?
It was the 19th of October, I believe.
19th of October. That's the next one. And we'll be looking at the Trifid data. And it is so cool. You can, I can't even, like, there's this great, like the kind of shadowy nebulous bits. It's like it looks like little spiders. It's great. And I guess that's great for October, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like a little Trifid. The trouble with Trifids, remember in Star Trek?
Yeah.
No, the trouble with, I don't know what they were called, but anyway.
Tribbles. Definitely tribbles.
Yeah, that's it. I'm a doctor, not a anyway.
Not a whatever else.
Okay.
So, yeah, I guess that looks like about it. We've got lots of thanks here. Jonathan Adams says that their brain hurts now. And so I think that after a little bit of sitting, like, it comes back. This is the second time I've gone through this presentation, and I have to say, like, I get it, sort of. I don't have PixInsight yet, but like, it really, you've done a great job here, Paul. Like, this is awesome. I feel like I've taken a lot of information in, and it's good. I like the learning.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, and I had just a couple of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to stop sharing so I could, there.
For sure. Yeah, and I had just a couple of notes. So if anybody had any other questions about how we're collecting the data in the chat, I'm going to put the RASC telescope, their URL. And so it's just rasc.ca/telescope. There's a little bit more, there's just some information about what they have there. And then if you want to, so like the data that we've collected is just one package of data. It's been put together by members of the team, the photo team. It's by Stuart Heggie and Kevin Watson. They've been amazing. Kevin's, collecting the data and Stuart's helping package it up. They're also great to kind of like the objects that we're shooting. They're consultants on it. So it's great. They're awesome. And if anybody has any interest in getting access to more data, I'm just going to throw the link in the chat box there. They sell their data. We're going to have we're going to have a package a month for the next 8 months, and it's going to be free and available for all the Sky News readers or anybody else in the world who wants to check it out or download it. And like we said at the beginning, there are 3 different levels that start with the data that Paul just worked with today to the raw files in their very basic form. So yeah, again, thank you so much, Paul.
Oh, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I've got so much stuff stored up now that we didn't do. These other ones. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the removing stars is going to be a good step, I think. And
yeah,
working with it from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking forward to that myself.
Yeah, that one's going to be. It's nice to have a challenge too, because there's so much that you think, okay, I think I can do that, and all of a sudden it's like, oh. How do I do that? And you get learning and stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, with that, I think that's we're done. Again, one more time, thank you so much, and we will see everyone again next month. And we hope to have happy data wrangling. And
yes, work away at it, everybody. Don't be afraid of it. It's a lot of fun, and it just gets better as time goes on.
Okay, great. And sorry, somebody just one last question. YouTube channel that will contain this that you can subscribe to? Yes, it'll be the Sky News Magazine YouTube channel. And it is, I guess, if you just look up Sky News Magazine, it should be there. And also, I'll make sure that it's on our website available. So that's just skynews.ca. Okay. And again, thank you so much for everybody who attended, and we'll see you again later. Bye for now.